Well, most children, when they're real young, don't want to leave their mother or father's side, but parents know that doesn't always last forever. Pretty soon their kids are teenagers and they want to do everything on their own terms. Licensed social worker and president of Daniel, Jim Clark, is here with some tips on how to help your teens feel independent but still keep them close. Wow.
Keep them close at the same time.
It sounds easy, but I don't think it's very easy.
No, it's not. It's not. And as you know, teenagers at Daniel, we have quite a few, and I've raised two myself. So it can be a very tricky thing in terms of having them develop their independence, but at the same time keeping them safe.
And teenagers, a lot of times, they'll come home from school, go in their room, shut the door, get on the computer, put on the TV. They don't want to talk to their parents or be around their parents.
That's true, and often that's true. But just because they're in the room and doors closed doesn't necessarily mean that you can't communicate. Kids do need, particularly teenagers, need some privacy. So it's appropriate to knock on the door before you enter. But I encourage parents to encourage and get that conversation. One of the things I've mentioned on this show before, and that can really help stop things from blowing up, is to have weekly family meetings. And weekly family meetings, you cover three things. Number one, you compliment everybody. Number two, you talk about behaviors that may need to be changed. Number three, you give out allowances. And number four, you go through the week. And that's a nice way in which to kind of have a communication pattern. But number one, research shows that kids' emotional content or their emotional connection to their parents has a lot to do with what's going to happen to them in high-risk behaviors.
And kids, I think, kids want discipline because it just shows them that their parents care and love about them. Should parents set some sort of ground rules about curfew and how often they can have the car? You know, what should parents do? Sure,
and that all depends on each individual family's values and their family rules and expectations. But they should be. Kids do need structure, they do need routine, and routine is a form of safety. And as you say, when people think that they care about you, that's also a very good safety feature. So yes, there should be limits. And if they break those limits, then you set them back. People say, well, what should be their bedtime, or that depends upon the family. Typically, you know, teenagers should be in by 10:30. If they break that rule, maybe you set it back to 10 o'clock or 9:30, depending on the circumstance. But kids do need structure.
What if parents suspect their kids are doing something illegal? What if they suspect they're into drugs or maybe drinking? You know, should they not give them as much privacy and maybe do a little spying, snooping?
Well, I would never spy. I mean, there's a lot of techniques out there, little cameras and things of that sort. And again, one of the greatest things you want to do is establish a relationship, establish trust. And of course, if spying doesn't really stimulate that kind of trust, and you want to encourage that kind of communication. Indeed, if a parent thinks that a child may be doing something inappropriate or they may be going to a party, they need to discuss that. That doesn't necessarily mean that you set the limits right there. Now, if they abuse those limits, then you do need to intervene. But the biggest thing to do is to make sure you're talking about it.
Well, we could talk all morning because you have such good information and advice for parents of teenagers who I know are probably listening and feverishly taking notes right now. Jim, thank you so much for coming on this morning show.
Thank you.
And if you would like more information on this topic or other family-related issues, you can go to news4jax.com, click on the Scene on 4 tab, and look under the weekend headlines.